We don't need no stinking trailers because we have a quad banger of a show. Not sure if that's a real word, but that's what we have here this week, a quad banger of a show. First, we kick things off doing something we've never done before, and that is welcoming last week's guest back to this week because I got more questions for the truth, Dylan Nutt, our reigning Bassmaster Classic champion, and a man who is not afraid to tell the truth. Speaking of the truth, a lot of people left the Bassmaster Classic scratching their head and saying, what is this Berkeley Lab Series? Well, in a world exclusive, we are joined by two of the masterminds from Berkeley Labs, and they break down exactly what Lab Series is. Then we are joined by four-time Bassmaster Classic champion, the legendary Rick Clunn, with a very truthful and hard-hitting message that everybody that fishes needs to hear. And as if that's not enough, we top it all off with Jake's Take. All of them join me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course you, my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 255th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening from, that life is treating you well. This week's show is something. I mean, weirdly, when I first started this podcast, the plan was to have, 3 to 5 guests on every week. And we kind of started like that. Then we got down to one guest and we've done multiple things, but we are back. 4 guests this week and 4 incredible guests. You want to watch this one. I get it. It's a long one. Break it up if you need to, but, all great guests, all with great information. I wanted to have Dylan Nutt back because he is the truth. He will tell you the truth. Very entertaining podcast last week. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. Most of you did because it had huge numbers. But we have him back because I had more questions for him. We've never done that before. Then we're joined by the folks at Berkeley Labs, which is a world exclusive for them to kind of break down what Berkeley Lab Series is. So couldn't say no to that. Rick Clunn had some information he wanted to share. Can't say no to that. Trust me, you want to watch that Clunn segment. It is maybe the best segment he's ever done on this show. And he has had some incredibly open conversations, but he takes things to a whole new level. And then, of course, Jake's Take, back in your life from the Bassmaster Classic. So yeah, it is a quad banger, and I hope you enjoy all of it. Moment of total honesty. While you watch this, I'm not sitting right here. I am in Columbus, Mississippi, getting ready for the next stop on the Bassmaster Elite Series on the Tom Bigby Waterway, the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway in Columbus, Mississippi. So if you're in the area, swing by, say hello. It's going to be a fun one. A fishery we have not been to, so a new fishery. People love that. It's a non-forward facing sonar event, so that's going to be interesting. Lots of interesting things coming up, but this is a long show, so I'll shut up and let you enjoy it. Let's kick things off right now with your reigning and defending classic champion, the truth, Dylan Nutt. Dylan Nutt, you're back.
Back again.
By popular demand. You've been a Bassmaster Classic champion now for a little over a week. What have you learned?
I've learned that people are ruthless about getting in touch with you. They you definitely got to answer the phone when you get a phone call.
Is that me or is that other people?
Man, it's everybody under.
But that's a good thing, right?
That's a great thing. Keeping me busy, keeping me on my toes. Never know who's calling, so just gotta stick with it, I guess.
Hammer down. Is competing in tournaments, is that actually like because you did. I mean, you competed in tournament, 0 pre-fish, did pretty good. Your brother did good. Banks did really good, so a big week for the house. But is that kind of your quiet time now? Is that the one time where you get away from it?
Yeah, it is. It's man, traveling with that group of guys, man. That's just it's such a good, relaxing. I mean, you just get back with some of your best friends and just hang out and talk fishing and go fish a tournament. And especially after the last week, I didn't have any care in the world, so it was just the coolest thing ever. Just going out there, just fishing. No practice. It was just awesome.
Why is that group so good?
Man, they put the time in. I mean, every one of those guys, they all put the time in, and they understand bass fishing. They get it, and I mean, it shows.
Yeah, it definitely does. I told you I had more questions because, generally I'm not like this, but I listened back to some of the things you said, and I gave me more questions. But one of those is, you said you spent a day, you kind of broke away, went and stayed at your buddy's house after winning the Classic, and sat and watched videos of the highlights of the weekend.
Yep.
What did you learn from that experience?
I mean, I don't know that I learned anything. It was just super cool to go back and, it's like me as a kid, 10 years ago when I'm sitting there watching the highlights from the Classic right afterwards. And, I'd stay up till 12:30, 1 a.m. every night watching Bassmaster. And for me to be watching myself is just, man, that's special. That's so cool.
I would imagine it's like the dream. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm a total weirdo, but when I was growing up, like, I would imagine that moment. You know what I mean? And then you're like, well, wait a second. I'm actually, no matter how positive you are and how much you visualized it, you're actually in that freaking moment.
Yeah, it's special, man.
It's very cool. How have you dealt with some, I mean, I think it's anything nowadays. It's not just bass fishing, but with success comes critique on the internet. How have you dealt with some of that?
I mean, I haven't even gave it a little bit of time. I haven't looked at it. The few comments I did see when I looked on Facebook, I said some funny things back to them, but nothing. I don't take anything to heart, man. I mean, that's when you're succeeding, is whenever you got haters. And we saw the same thing last year when Easton won, and I guess that's part of bass fishing now.
Yeah, sadly it is. One of the cool things that was said about you, and dude, I don't know whether it's going to be part of this segment or it's going to be, we're going to do a special show. I interviewed Rick Clunn earlier today. You want to listen to that show. He says some very amazing things. I mean, just, you'll want to listen to that segment because I think you'll be pretty impressed at how he looks at the youth anglers and what you guys are doing. But one of the really cool things that I heard said about you was Zona made a comment and said, what you did in that event might have been one of the most complete and thorough tournament plans he's ever seen in his life of covering sports, of covering these events. What does that mean to you?
I mean, that's pretty awesome to hear from a guy like Mark Zona. I mean, he's been around for a long time and has seen a lot of things, and for him to say that's special. I mean, that just, I don't know. I guess that goes into how much time I put into it, and to hear feedback like that, man, that's special.
Did you have any, when you look back at it, I mean, obviously it worked out perfectly, but when you look back at the game plan, was there any parts where you were like, if this happens, I'm in trouble?
I mean, yeah, I was thinking if the water got really dirty, that it would really affect me, and it did in some areas, but luckily I had enough knowledge of the lake that I had some more areas to go to, and just kind of stuck with it. I mean, I was really blessed that it didn't turn out how it was supposed to be. I mean, the forecast was saying we were supposed to get a ton of rain, and we did that night before the tournament, but it wasn't enough.
One of the things that you slid in during our last conversation that I don't know if it got noticed, but I think a lot of people probably will be shocked to know, you're on the Dean's list.
I was on the dean's list.
So how does that work? Once you're on it, you don't just stay on it.
No, you got to keep. I mean, I've been on it a couple times. I think I've been on it 3 times in college, so that's pretty cool. But you definitely got to stick with it. I think it's only like higher than a 3.0 GPA. But,
okay.
I did really good last semester and the semester before that. But that's because I had such a bad one that I just kind of had to, kick it into gear and start focusing on school as much as I didn't want to. But you got to do some things that you don't want to do.
You need that piece of paper at the end.
That's right.
What are you taking?
I'm majoring in geography. So that's like a lot of map making and stuff like that. And like some other, like it expands into like some business things as well. And some other things, just like how geographically everything's set up and, how it kind of works.
Yeah. Do you, was that, look, why did you take that? Was that just like, I got to get a degree or do you think that helps you as a competitor?
I mean, I didn't. So I started off in business marketing, and they started putting me in these coding classes and stuff. And I was like, what the heck? I'm not interested in coding. And so then I started looking at different majors and whatnot. And the people in the geography department, they've had a lot of the UNA fishing team come through there. So he started talking to me about it and convinced me to join. And I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it is. I thought it would be, kind of like a slide, but it really wasn't. It's actually harder. I'd say I spend way more time doing homework than Carter does. Here's Carter actually just walked in.
Oh, well. Congrats. You had a good week last week, huh?
Yeah, it was a good week.
Yeah, not bad. Things have been going pretty well for both of you guys.
Yeah. My house has been doing pretty good.
Yeah. Let me ask Carter another question before he takes off. Hey, Carter, has he become a real pain in the ass to deal with now? You having a Bassmaster Classic brother?
No, I mean, it's absolutely unreal. I mean, he won the Bassmaster Classic. I mean, that's just, I hear it and it's just like, it doesn't feel real, but it is. He won the Classic.
Yeah. Well, you guys called it. I mean, not bad.
Yeah, he gets a lot more shit from me now. That's for sure.
Well, that's the truth. That's what I was waiting for, because I'm going to tell you, if I did that, I'd be a total dick to live with. Have you had a chance to sit back and really celebrate this with your family, with your friends, or?
We did the Saturday night after we got back. We're in a fraternity here at UNA, and we all brought our trophies up there and had a good time, and got some other people we know to come over, and it was just a good time hanging out with all of our friends.
Good times indeed. One of the things you said when we last talked is you may take a few events off to work on some stuff that you're not. Well, I wrote it down exactly. I may take a few days off and focus on building myself, getting better at a few aspects that I'm not as good at right now. What are those aspects? What do you have to work on?
Really just the business side of the industry and filming for the most part. I mean, I'm not very good with technology, and filming does not really work good with Dylan. So I kind of want to get a little better at that stuff and, make some good content. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what keeps you in the game in the long run. So
why do you say you're not good at it?
I'm not experienced with it.
Okay. Okay. Is this something you enjoy?
I'm not good at it yet. So maybe in the future I will. We filmed a lot in that dual threat scam fishing league that we were doing.
Oh, and, yeah.
I had a blast doing it with Carter. I mean, we got some great footage from that. But it really worked just because we were both in the boat at the same time. It's instead of like in a solo event where you're just like hammered down on fishing the entire time, one of us could take the time to not be as hammered down and, set up a camera and like work on that stuff while the other person, is still hammered down fishing. So that's just, I don't know. I learned from it, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, we got some great footage. It was super cool to be able to sit there at the end of the day and watch some of the highlights. But that's definitely something I need to get better at.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the way that whole deal worked out, but people seem to have fun. I mean, I think that's a great concept. I mean, I've actually been after bass for years to do where 50% of the field gets to draw. Like if you went halfway through the season and we had the top 50 in Angler of the Year, so pick the guy who's leading gets pick one, and the guy who's in 50th gets 50th pick, but they draft the other half of the field. I think it would be, I just think it's, I mean, fishing's all about trash talk. That's literally, I mean, that's your world. Yeah,
it is 100%. I mean, and you talk to anybody that fished that team trail, it was the most fun that most of us have had fishing tournaments. And, it was super laid back. I guess we now know why it was super laid back, but it was super cool in the moment. I mean, it was like you were getting ready for a Tuesday nighter at the meeting. I mean, he said 5 things. He was like, all right, if you guys got any questions, let me know. And, I was the first person to ask a question. I was like, well, can we use live bait? And he said, absolutely not on the live bait. It was a hard no. So,
Did you really want to use live bait?
Well, it wasn't in the rules. So, I mean, if we're allowed to use it, you got to know. I mean,
that I think is something that is true of competitors today. Like that's a lot more like people look for the loopholes.
They do.
Do you think that's a good thing, or that's just the way those sports evolve?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just part of it. People try to get as most of an advantage as they can. And, I wasn't serious about using live bait, but, it was more of a joke. But still, I mean, if we could have used it, you would have saw me grab a bucket of shiners for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had a chance to even judge the response from sponsors, potential sponsors, that sort of thing? Like how popular have you become over the last week?
Pretty popular. Pretty crazy, to be honest.
More than you would have imagined before it?
Oh yeah. Way more than I ever would have imagined. I never really did comprehend how life-changing something like this could be, and it's unreal. Even for Carter. I mean, he's doing pretty good as well.
Yeah. Things are pretty. It's a lot of hype around. There's always been hype around you guys, but I think it's kind of a cornerstone win. Like you guys have had hype for a bunch of years. But I just think, especially doing what you guys did, to both have kind of big victories on one week, and I know Carter didn't do it by himself. He was part of a team, but I think it's a real statement friggin' victory.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's, we walked in the trap, took it.
I'm calling this episode The Truth because I feel like you like the reaction you get from people when you say things like that, don't you?
I love it, man. Love it.
Have you got any shocking reactions from some of the stuff that you said?
Not that I've seen. I mean, I haven't. I'm not the one staring there like, oh, what do you say about me? Doesn't really matter. I'm having fun. It's not like I'm some asshole that's like, oh, these people suck. They're great anglers, and for me to be able to talk trash, that's awesome.
Yeah. Love it. I want to throw a few things at you that I've heard. And these are things that, people would think you wouldn't answer. But one of the things that floats around, and I mean, you don't have to look very hard for somebody to say, well, he wouldn't have done this without forward-facing sonar. How do you think you would have done without forward-facing sonar?
Man, there's no telling. No telling at all. Could have caught some fish. Maybe couldn't have, but I mean, I still would have put the same amount of time in, and never know. Never know.
Do you worry about, I've said this to you and I've said it to a bunch of people. Somehow you have a way to say things that if you wrote them on paper, they seem real cocky, but you have a way of saying them and they come out and I'm like, I'm likable. Like, I mean, I took it from them. So as soon as somebody hears that, they'll push back and be like, oh yeah, he's going to get his, he's going to learn. Do you think that you would learn, or do you just think this is the human you are?
Man, everything's a learning experience. I mean, I've been beat so many times and learned from every single one of them. And, I'm excited to see what the future holds. I mean, I didn't grow up fishing with live scope, so I'm excited to get after it, without it. But definitely is a huge learning curve for especially the younger anglers is the ones that are affected the most with it because, we started fishing with live scope, 3 or 4 years ago. And then that's pretty much been the only thing that we've done. Like you'll go out, fish without it every now and then, but for the most part, you're fishing with live scope. So turning it off and going back to the old ways is definitely a little bit different. But I might have said something on the last one, but our dual threat tournament at Okeechobee this spring, man, I got all my confidence back. I fished a tournament on Pickwick last year as the pros, or I guess the invitational is what it was then. And day one didn't do terrible, but didn't do the best. And then the second day, fishing without live scope, I just got spun out because I hadn't done it in a long time, and it was like I'd lost my confidence is what it was, and it didn't go good for me just because I didn't have any confidence in what I was doing just because I hadn't done it in so long. It's like school, or, writing a paper. If you haven't written one in a long time, then you're probably going to be a little rusty with it. And I was rusty, and then we went down there, and all the scopers were in the canals, and we went out there on the lake, and I think we ended up 5th place or something like that. And we were on the lake the whole time and fishing around people like Steve Kennedy, and to be able to beat someone like that, and we were fishing the exact same area as them, I just kind of got my groove back, and I was like, oh yeah.
You're going to the Elite Series next year, and let's assume the rules, I don't know what the rules are going to be, but let's assume they're the same with the 50-50 schedule. Will you spend more time this offseason fishing without it to prepare for that?
Maybe not. I don't know. We're just going to, I'm really interested to see what the schedule is. Because that's, if we're going to a river system, I love river systems. We go to Dardanelle for college every year, and that's the one tournament where, nowadays people are like this past year, people were catching them scoping, but we would always go flipping and, doing our thing, and we would always do pretty good, fishing without it. So those river styles systems, I love fishing them without live scope. But, if we go to a couple lakes or, a big smallmouth fishery without it, it might get a little tough for me. But, I'm going to put my head down and grind and see where the chips fall.
You had mentioned spending a little time on Hartwell. When does that process start?
I don't know. We'll probably go a little bit this summer, but definitely towards the end of the year for sure.
You won this classic because of work?
100%. If I would have just showed up and went fishing, it would have been really tough on me. But, I kind of knew where the big ones lived and had a lot of practice out there catching really good fish. So I had confidence in certain areas and paid off.
I would say it paid off pretty good. I'm sure you've seen the ratings came out for the Classic. Look, when you saw that 6.5 million people watched on Fox over 2 days, did that even register with you, or you were just like, hey, I was just out there doing my job?
It didn't really register for me. I looked at on my Instagram, and in the last 30 days, which most of it's from the Classic, I've had 10.5 million views on my profile, which is just unbelievable. That's a crazy. I went from 8 or 9,000 followers to now I got 30,000 followers, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that's a huge jump. And in the world we live in with social media, that's a huge head start.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the trophy been?
It was down at Scottsboro Tackle for a couple days, and then Tim brought it over to our weigh-in at Wheeler Lake, and I took it to the fraternity house, and I haven't seen it since. So
you don't even know where it is. I mean, just assume it's there.
I assume it's there. Yeah, I don't imagine anybody would take it, but never know. Might have to do a manhunt for it.
Today's high-tech fishing world can be a real pain in the neck, especially if you're running the wrong mount. Beat Down Outdoors, they bring the graph to you. And they support this podcast and care enough about you to make this a short ad read. Check out Beat Down Outdoors. Now back to the show.
How are things over at the fraternity house? I mean, I've never been a member of a fraternity, but maybe I can be your blue.
You need to. They would love you. I mean, it's a great group of dudes. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's your typical frat house. I mean, they're great dudes, and I enjoy it.
In that frat, is it all anglers or no? It's like they just.
There's a bunch of us though that are on the fishing team that are in there. They're really easy with letting us miss pretty much everything, and because we're fishing the whole time. It's not we're definitely not frat guys first. We're in it. We just joined it this year, and it's something really special. I wish I would have joined it my freshman year, but I might not be sitting where I am today if I would have done that.
There is some distractions. I mean, like I said, I've never been a member of a frat, but I've seen movies.
Yeah, it's not quite like the movies. Definitely not quite like the movies.
I want you to take part. I mean, you're actually not going to take part. You're just going to watch it. But this right here, and I've talked about this before. It sits behind me and everything. This was my 16th Classic that I've been lucky enough to MC. And every Classic Champion, I grab a big handful of confetti and put it into the canister of victory. So I have to separate you from Easton right now with that little disc, and we'll make it official. I'm gonna look at that. I'm pouring it all over the floor. Don't worry, I'll clean up afterwards. But now you're officially sealed as a champion, and this is it's not near the traditions that you've invited in already, but it's official now. You're freaking Bassmaster. I'll put the rest in. Don't worry, I'm not just gonna throw that away, but. I couldn't do it in a timely manner while we're talking, but you've officially joined the Tub of Champions, and I'm going to check in with you every once in a while, if that's okay. I'm not going to let you get away with not hanging out this year, because I really would like you to be in the elites now.
Man, I wish, but I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, it's a dream come true. Just have the opportunity is special.
Yeah,
I just gotta find some people to room with next year.
Oh, I'm sure you'll have a lineup of people. Who are you thinking? Let's throw it out there. Who's a dream roommate, or are you going to let the suitors come banging?
I don't know. I mean, it'd be pretty cool to room with Matt and Seth.
Oh, damn!
But they might get me in a little too much trouble. I might just have to. I don't know. Might do it by myself. Might get a camper and just roll with it. But we'll see.
I don't know. You, Matt, and Seth would get along pretty good, I think. I mean, they're kind of like a frat, though. I mean, you're going to have good times, but they're also going to distract you a little bit. Does that concern you, or you feel you're powerful enough to avoid the distractions?
Oh, I definitely can avoid the distractions. I mean, traveling with college guys for the last 4 years, you kind of get some distractions, and you got to learn how to avoid some of them. But some of them, man, they're memories that you'll never forget. So can't avoid them all.
Well, dude, I just wanted to talk to you for a few more minutes just to ask you, follow up on some of that stuff. Honestly, keep being who you are. Like I said, you are the truth. And I love that you throw it out there as the truth, what you believe to be the truth. I hate what I hate about our world is we live in a world where so many people are so guarded. Like some of the stuff you said on last week's podcast, I had other anglers reach out to me and be like, he's saying stuff that I thought I just wouldn't say. Have you always been that guy?
I mean, for the most part. But I mean, like I've said before, man, there's no fun in being sheltered. You gotta say what you think. And I mean, can't get any hate for it. I'm just being myself.
Wow. Yeah, you'll get hate for anything you do. So just ignore it and hammer on because things are going pretty good.
Can't complain.
From our reigning Bassmaster Classic world champion, we hop over to a world exclusive. That's right. The first time you're going to hear from these guys, and I imagine you're going to hear a bunch from them in the future. But this is the first podcast they decided to come on, and I am thankful for that, where we finally get the answers to the question, what was Dylan Nutt fishing with at the Bassmaster Classic, Berkeley Lab Series? And if you spent any time on social media the last few days, you've probably got kind of an idea of what it is, and it's a fusing of technologies. It's a way that Berkeley has figured out to manufacture baits that allow max scent and power bait to be in the same bait. And on top of that, they have a powder on it that turns into a slime when it touches the water. So basically, ultimately, you end up with a better looking bait, a better acting bait, a better performing bait, because it kind of checks all the boxes. It's better color, better action, better scent, better taste, better results. That's how I would explain it as a fish head. But let's bring in two much smarter people than me. From Berkeley Labs, I'd like to welcome to the show Mark Sexton and Nathan Ragsdale with a much more educated explanation to exactly what Berkeley Lab Series is. This episode is called The Truth, and it's time to finally get the truth about literally, it was a fever at the Bassmaster Classic because never in the history of the Bassmaster Classic has somebody hidden their bait as well as Dylan Nutt did, obviously. For you guys, a brand manager and basically the scientist behind all of this, was that scary time to go through, or were you just like, it's all good, we're winning the freaking Bassmaster Classic?
I think it was more excitement than anything, for sure. I mean, the team's prepared for that to potentially happen, and the group texts were going off over the weekend. So I'd say more excitement than anything.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Nathan said. I mean, I've been here a little bit longer than he has. It's probably easy to tell, but we've had this problem a couple times, and I tell you what, like when obviously we weren't there. However, we were all staring at it intently. And there wasn't a heart rate under 100, I guarantee it, anywhere on staff. And, we did it back at the day when we had the Chigger crowd and we won it. And, I mean, it was mayhem at the Classic for us. And it's the best feeling you can have corporately, unless you got to leave the party and go start making phone calls.
Yeah. It was a special week, a special champion. But what has the big secret been? We've heard Berkeley Lab Series, but what is Berkeley Lab Series and why is it such a secret?
Berkeley Lab Series is a new technology platform. So it's not one shape. It's not just what Dylan won on, but it's a launch of an entirely new technology stack from Berkeley.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And then when we were going through this together and trying to figure out, what's the correct verbiage, and I mean, hell, it even confounded us a little bit. And at first we were calling it like a culmination, but it's not. It's exactly not that, because like you said, it's a platform that we have a lot of room to run with this series yet. I mean, we can do all sorts of other things with Lab Series, most likely in the future, but this is where kind of the stars all came together and we were allowed to use some technology we've had over the past 30, 40 years, and include it with some technology we have more recently, and then even more recently. And it all kind of came together. And as a scientist, when you finally you get told no more than yes a lot as a scientist. But every time you get told no, you're learning. It didn't say no. It was a wonderful feeling when it all came together. But like Nathan said, it's a platform, and we're gonna start here and run like hell.
So how long have you been working on this?
Honestly, given the technology, 40 years, but we had no idea we're going to end up here. The entire concept kind of fell together just between Nathan and the rest of our team. Hey, what if we try this? Which, that's the basically cornerstone of my life is, hey, let's try this. And, I still have 10 digits and eyesight, so I'm good. But, it's one of those things where let's try it. And it actually worked. With a lot of tweaks, and especially when you start to put technological advancements like that together, it can blow up in your face pretty quick. And this one did not. It all came together really nice.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, Dave, like from a market standpoint, a lot of what drives anglers also drives us. So as technology advances are driving the needs of anglers in different areas, that causes us to rethink our business, our shapes, our technology platforms, our assortments, and where the market was headed opened up the door for, like Mark said, for us to think, okay, what if we combine several of these things we know to be true in a way that better serves where the consumer or the angler need is headed, which is, we talk about forward facing all the time, right? I'm seeing fish on the screen. They're following my bait. How do I convert a larger percentage of those blobs into fish on the hook and in the boat? And it falls right back into Sexton and the rest of the team's wheelhouse of, okay, how do we stimulate that fish in the right way to make them bite? That's what Lab Series is all about. It's stimulation through color, action, scent, and taste to increase that conversion percentage and ultimately serve that angler so that they put more fish in the boat.
So it's combining multiple platforms, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you explain those to me?
Sure. I'm sure that the social's blowing up this morning, which is kind of cool. And what we're seeing is, we have a couple layers of power bait, then another layer of max set, and then another layer of this technology that no one's ever actually seen. A few select people, then we steal a lot of the lab, but never on the market side, right? And so what it allows us to do is that obviously we're the gooky scientists that are nerd fishermen as well. When what Nathan said something, he goes, whole forward facing thing, but it actually instantly my mind went to, this almost transcends forward facing and almost goes to sensory facing, because now we've made something that instantly gets in their grill, whether they can see it or not. So now we have it, and a fish's nose is its best tool. They like to see things, but they're way better at smelling things. So now we can get them closer, and then we visually stimulate them with the old power bait stuff. So you already covered up 2 of their 6 senses, which they only really use 5. Now we got them. So as soon as they put it in their mouth, it all comes together, and it's like it's like a 3-pronged approach, if you will. And it gets them closer, and then once they commit, we know it's over. And the fact that we could do that and make them look so pretty and fishable was a lot of work. And Nathan and his team did a wonderful job putting this together.
Sexton said something there that it's just worth saying it. I think the most exciting piece is, as a product guy, is we can put everything in the one bait. So it's the right action, scent, taste, but also color. Mark said, I think you said make them look pretty, right? Dave, you spoke to me in the past about your experience with the launch of Max Scent, being on the water, I think when Bobby Lane was handing a bag. I can't remember to who it was.
Yeah, on the
water.
The St. Lawrence River, yeah.
Right. So like, as we, again, look at our business, we think about how do we always improve? Making them look pretty is a part that just quite frankly, we've gotten feedback on in regards to Max Scent. So, what's so exciting about Lab Series is we've broken through barriers of even our own technology platforms that continue to hit senses. And I think you said transcend just forward facing market. It's really about even transcending our current limitations.
So basically what I'm hearing is you have great products that obviously catch fish, but every product has limitations. This product seems to have a lot less limitations, meaning that some have more action, some are a little limited on color. This is not.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. You look at just the lineage of it with power bait, insanely good when it comes to taste. And smells okay, but you had to, bust up your worm and get more surface area so that more would get into the water. And so then you get into like a gulp, and gulp was extreme scent dispersion. But it also sucked when you needed to go fish a master because it dried up because it was water soluble, the whole thing. And so then you get into like the max scent, and max scent became a nice little tweener between those two. And they're all three different technologies, which is, again, the beautiful part of this. And then we're like, what happens if we put power bait and max scent together? Is that even possible? And I remember, Nathan, some of our first meetings, I think we looked at each other like, no, like, no chance. Dave, in case you haven't been in the corporate world long enough, normally what these guys ask for and what's actually real are separate by a couple light years. But this one had legs, and we worked at it, and getting them to adhere to each other, and then adding this special little coating. Oh boy. One of those things where, good, better, best all in one.
And like I said, it's just the start for Lab Series. This is just the beginning, but it's one good kickoff.
Yeah. And without Dave just eating up all your time spewing about the process of how we got here, I think it's important to land to Lab Series. It is the mix of our scent and taste technologies, but it's also the team grabbing another gear in regards to intentionality and precision in the way we can put baits into market. So we could talk for 2-3 hours about each shape and the intentionality that went into each of them. But even things like densities of different layers, or making sure tails are quivering or flicking in the exact right way, it all levels up to, again, the color, action, scent, and taste kind of piece. But it is us combining our scent and taste technologies and power bait and max scent, but it's also so much more in the level of precision we can get in each of these baits. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, when you first look at them, they stood out to me. They almost look like a hand pour, but they're not a hand pour, right? They're like, can you tell me that, or am I?
They're we'll call it small batch poured. So They're not necessarily hand poured. I'd call it a level more precise than that.
Wow.
But it is small batch poured so that we can achieve that level of precision. So again, without kind of giving away a lot, you can think about the way maybe a minnow rolls, and how do you adjust densities within layers to amplify roll in a minnow, for example. So whether it's a minnow flatworm or the finesse worm, or like Mark said, we're just getting started, anything that comes in the future within this technology platform, there's just another level of intentionality, precision, and sort of detail we can grab with Lab Series.
Where did the powder come from? Like what I mean, because these are two things that have been out, but that is something totally different for you guys. So why was it important to have that?
Go ahead, Nathan.
It's about
you guys are way too polite for this podcast, just so you know.
It's about the scent dispersion part, Dave. It's within the max scent layer in Lab Series. Mark, speak to all the details here, but the slime layer, or the dust layer that converts into slime when it hits the water, is instant, spontaneous scent dispersion. And the two layers work together. So the poured max scent layer Mark talked about, and then this dust layer that converts to slime, they work together to ensure you've got scent dispersion from the moment that bait hits the water to your final cast with the bait. So you can think of them as it's a 1-2 punch scent dispersion mechanism that kind of work in harmony to make sure you're covered from cast to cast.
Yep. The other big thing, Dave, is never another soft bait has been like this. And so, we're kind of learning as we go as well. And one of the dimensions that it really exemplifies is the time dimension. Because it releases chemicals into the water so fast, like probably faster than gulp. Now we have that time dimension on the same side as covering up the visual stimulus and obviously the taste and the action, which is the visual. But we're starting the process of predatory behavior way quicker than any soft bait ever has before. And that's the key. So you look at the Classic, Nutt was fishing some water that, probably got mucked up a little bit, with all the rain. Why did he still stick with something that is putting out so much more scent than everything else? And then having the knowledge, he's obviously really good. He knows who those fish are, but he had to get them to sense that bait. It was the perfect storm for us. It really was. So, we enter and we make them change their behavior quicker than any other bait ever has. And that's the key.
And how do you know that to be fact? Like what kind of testing has gone into that?
Very, very simple in terms of chemoreception, which is their ability to sense chemicals. And they do that in 2 ways, by tasting it or smelling it. And we've been doing that test since about 1986 in Spirit Lake, Iowa. So we have a database probably about the same distance as wherever you are to where I'm at right now in small print. And we have a lot of data. And we don't share it with anyone because we're very secretive. We're like the little Harry Potter nerds of the earth. We don't tell anyone anything. But we also don't think anyone's going to find the time to and to figure it out. And thus far, no one has. So then Intermac sent a new technology and we realized what that can do. So then our eyes were just perking up like, wow, we got to marry these two. It's almost like a prearranged marriage, like in some foreign country, if you will. And the slime's just a party at the end, It's just beautiful. But so, yeah, it's.
That was a hell of an analogy right there.
It worked out great. They'll love each other
forever. So from here, where does it go next? Is that always just the answer? Because I remember I've always said that one of the biggest mistakes in my entire fishing life was I remember when power bait first came out, and I remember being that arrogant tournament angler that was like, yeah, I catch plenty of fish on what I'm using. I don't need it. And I remember it was 2 years later, I actually tried it and I'm like, wow, what a mistake to have not, I just felt the difference. But it does definitely, it has evolved and got into gulp and then Maxent and now this. Can this continue to evolve? I guess if you want to stay employed, the answer is yes.
We're not on a timeline just yet, but the one thing I will tell you is this combination of technologies did allow us to use some things that we've never used before. And as a scientist, I've been waiting for this for many a moon, like decades. But one of the most potent substances we've ever used in terms of what fish can sense and sense in a positive fashion is in this bait. And I'm not saying it's not in other baits. Obviously we put it where we can, stuff like that. But this one just has it and it comes out pretty darn fast. And it's one of those things that stimulates them in a really positive way and turns on behavior changes that change your fishing day. Shortening the time between bites is what this does. And that's what we're all about.
Okay, so I got to ask this, and I feel like I know the answer. What is that thing?
Colonel Sanders didn't give his stuff up either, so... Sorry, bro.
I had to ask, right? I had to ask.
You catch me at midnight after about 3 bottles of bourbon, and maybe, probably not.
Oh, let's shoot this podcast a little later.
Yeah, yeah.
How crazy is the last few days? Because let's be honest, this product when was it scheduled? Summertime release?
Yep.
And then that Dylan Nutt threw a monkey wrench into that. How crazy has it been Like, are you shocked that this is being released as quick as it is?
No, I think you you load your pro staff with samples, and specifically with the product that we know to be this good. I think there was a bit of an expectation actually that something like this happened on my side, at least. Mark, I don't know about you, but I think we're that confident in the product.
Honestly, yeah, it's even before we actually field tested it against competition, which it's hard to find competition for this because it's its own category, really. We were really excited just taking it locally fishing. And then, Nathan, he's down in the Southeast, so he's taking it to Hartwell and near Murray, all those places. And we're up in Minnesota and Iowa and all these. And we all had the same collective results, and that, boy, they eat the crap out of this thing. And they eat it fast. And so we did all that. And then we actually did decide to do a head-to-head field test against a major competitor, and we won. And that was the icing on the cake. And then after that, it was just modifications to colors and stuff like that. And I want to say it's that easy, but it was not that easy. It was several hard years to make it, but well worth it.
Is there times where a product like this gets close and then it's like, yeah, we're not quite there? Like a year ago, what was I live my life in movies, and where I don't spend any time in real offices with cubicles and HR departments. I don't bode well with those. So in my head, I'm feeling like, the sales guy's like, we need to get it out there. And the science guy's like, well, it's not quite ready yet. Like, does that struggle happen at Berkeley?
Oh, dude. Honestly, I seriously thought about hiring a legal staff when this first started. I need some internal help. But honestly, it's generally marketing and brand and sales. Well, sales, we try to keep them in the dark. So we just do this progression of, the R&D team tries to gather facts and truth. And then the marketing crew starts to spin it, like a top. And no, I'm just teasing. They wanted to go faster than us, but this one kind of worked out. We both kind of were waiting for the right moment. And did it get moved up just a little bit? Thank God it did. Thank God for Dylan and everyone else that gets to see it a little bit earlier, because this is special. And so this one everything just kind of aligned correctly. So we'll see how that goes the next couple of months, because it's in pretty hot demand.
I imagine so. What from both of you, I want to hear, what is the emotion connected to winning the Classic on something you were involved in dreaming up?
I don't want to sound prideful, but it's pride. It's pride for the team. It's pride for the brand. It's pride for, being able to work in a place where you're surrounded with guys like Sexton or, John Prochnow, other people, Kyle Peterson, Dan Spangler. Like, we've got a fantastic team that you're just thankful to be a part of. And when you see it play out like it did, you're just happy. You're proud of everybody. Really.
Yeah, it's 100%. Berkeley Labs isn't a thing. It's not a facility. It's the people. And the people are extremely dedicated, extremely knowledgeable. And when you get all that together, it transcends company. It's family. And I've been here 30 years, and I'm one of the puppies in R&D, the new guy. But, I've been through Skeet Reese's Classic, had a lot to do with that. Boyd Duckett's, Scott Suggs when he won the FLW, that first big check. Those are all like
$1 million
sugar craws and stuff like that. And you know what? I've seen it before, but it does not get old. And to see these younger guys like Nathan and then Kyle Peterson and Spangler and those guys, to watch them glow like kids at Christmas when something like this happens is meaningful. And it provides, to me, it gives confidence that this company will live for a long time. And I'm really happy to see that.
Yeah. Specifically to you, because I know how serious you guys take the lab element to it. Putting the name Lab Series on this, I don't imagine that was just a nothing decision. And it's different. Like, it's, when you look at the other, you know what I mean? You have Max and you have Gulp. They're all going in a certain direction, then Lab Series. Why is it Lab Series?
To me, it's almost honoring a technological breakthrough, and it's worthy of that kind of moniker is where my head would go. I can't speak to the people who actually named it. They usually keep me in the dark until I see it on package. But this one was right. That was aptly named, because it took a lot of times we can make baits. I mean, you and I can make a bait in the garage in 20 minutes, most likely, right? Oh, it's a crawdad with some wiggly legs or a minnow. Neat. This one had a lot more to it. So there was a large team of people, chemists, fish scientists, fish biologists, marketing people, all sorts of color experts that all came together in a giant team. And this was probably one of the larger team efforts Berkeley's ever had, honestly.
Makes a lot of sense. The big question, why? I mean, who was in charge of making the decision of not letting Dylan talk about it? I mean, because that to me, like when I first heard about it, I'm like, what? So a kid's about to potentially win the Bassmaster Classic and we don't want him to talk about it? Why was that decision made?
I think first and foremost,
Don't you?
It's an intricate technology that deserves to be told in the right manner, right? And so, frankly, we felt it was right to take our time and make sure that it's presented in that light. Again, it's not just a shape; it's the best of our best. That, to Mark's point, we pulled from all the brains in this building. And so we wanted to take our time, make sure that story was told right, presented right, and also to make sure that within that, the consumers understand, anglers understand this technology. Again, we didn't want it to be teed up as just another shape. Let's take our time. Let's let Dylan focus on winning the Classic first and foremost. And then let's make sure we tell this story correctly.
So when does it come out? How many shapes are coming out? Like what is the rollout plan?
So this first wave will be 3 shapes. There'll be a minnow, a finesse worm, and then the flatworm, which is a bit of an homage to our scent success, I'll call it. Product will be available in May. We're working as hard as we can to get it here.
Give me real quickly some of the one of the things that I love, whenever I get to go to Berkeley events, I hear you guys talking about different things, different tests and different results. And like, hey, this happened when we did this. We started catching more fish this way. Or, some of the claims that you guys have thrown out and advertised, this percentage more. What were your results with this product? How much better is it?
That's kind of hard because there's nothing that compares to it in terms of its chemical makeup or its physical makeup. So it's hard to find anything in the same realm. But we just went up against, the number one hand pour thing, and you know exactly what we're talking about. But we beat them, and that's a big step. I mean, they made some good stuff. Let's be honest. I got buckets of their stuff, but this is way better, And you know what the competition? And there's several companies that have stuff like this. What they don't have is anything that crosses over past one sensory facility that a fish has. And that's where we win. I mean, we literally take in a solid 3 to 4 sensory perceptors every single time we come up with stuff like this. And this one covered more than most. And that's why we're going to run right by everybody. And it's fun when you can run by people.
I mean, Mark, you tell me if you feel differently, but Dave, I feel like the competition, it was against ourselves. Like we know we've got the call it external competition beat. Lab Series was about how do we one up ourselves. And I think the thing I'm most excited about is, Mark mentioned Color Water with Dylan. Like if you take this, I keep referring to it as the tech stack, but color, action, scent, and taste. So let's take Dylan. Maybe it was scent that intrigued the fish he was targeting first, and then action and color as they started tracking that presentation. And then, with a minnow. Once they eat it, taste, but they're pretty much hooked, right? But if you were to flip that on, let's say, a body of water like Lake Lanier or Dave up where you are, super clear water, right? It's probably color that may be first in that tech stack, color and action, right? It's a visual sense. And then as that fish approaches, then they get the scent and then they bite and get the taste. So like, again, I think from a competition standpoint, it was really how do we go beat ourselves, because that tech stack hasn't always been completely reversible and therefore applicable in pretty much any set of conditions. Mark, I don't know how you feel about that, but personally, I feel
a really good way to put it.
How does it compare?
Yeah. It's one thing, the question is which sensor they're going to use first. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter because we got both, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we got the chemical side and we got the visual side, and that doesn't happen very often. But it does. It does now. So yeah, we're very happy with this. We're proud, very proud of it. And I hope a lot of people try it because it's going to change it a little bit.
Yeah, it's very cool. I always bring things down to the lowest hanging fruit, but if we had to compare this to like we're at a bar, you got your well booze, and it'll get you there. But if you want to step it up a little bit, you get a premium. But if you really want to step it up, you get the batch, and then no hangover, guaranteed performance in every department. Correct?
Yeah. Send me some of that, will you?
I just made that to make your analogy earlier seem okay, Mark. That was me being a team player there. Cool stuff. I think we've covered everything, and I'm excited to get on the water with it. And I appreciate you guys for spending a little time and dropping the juice here this week.
Thanks for the opportunity, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
I'll see you at that bar. Rick Clunn, it was a wonderful Bassmaster Classic, but I have one beef. I have to air one grievance.
Me too.
We never ran into each other the whole entire freaking Bassmaster Classic.
It was just really busy, and you know that. And it was amazing. The energy was amazing. And again, every year there's more and more young anglers like we saw on stage there, and even inside. And it's so positive. It's an incredibly positive event in a world that doesn't have a lot of positives sometimes. Yeah.
I don't know why, but it feels like I noticed it even more this time. Like the expo, it was just overrun with people. Like you heard what I said last week on the show, but I used to stand out in fishing because when I started, I was 16, but I stood out because I was different, and I'm still different. But
good.
But you don't stand out anymore as a 16-year-old, as an 18-year-old, as a 20-year-old, because there is so many of them.
There is so many of them, but they should stand out because they remind us of how it all works. And I'm going to go into that a little bit. I'm not going to go into any depth, but that's the one thing back in 1977 when I started chasing the mental side of this game, because I knew there was more to it than the physical side, that all of a sudden I started unfolding slowly a process that now I witnessed, Dylan totally used that process naturally. And so much of your amazement of him reminded me of that process. And some of it I have forgotten. And also, and I understand, but I'm going to talk a little negative here first and end on positives. I'm going to get the negative out of the way, hopefully.
All right.
But I'm so tired of the bashing of the technique these young anglers are using. I'm so tired because it's coming from, and I want to apologize because a lot of it is coming from my age group. And but I want to also say that even though we hear a lot of that, my grandmother used to say, and this was 50 years ago, she used to say, fools' names and fools' places show up in public places. And I've been thinking about that. For some reason, it popped back in my head that that's what internet has allowed us to do. It's allowed not just the wise of us to say things and talk about things, but it's also allowed the fools to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, but I want to emphasize they're a minority. And even my age group that it sounds like are so against this new technique, what I call the modern technique over the traditional technique, that's just a small group. It really is. And I don't have anything against those who don't like the technique. I mean, you've stated it over beautifully. That's their opinion. They should have that. But at the same time, you shouldn't be trashing people that use it. And that's the part that really upsets me. And again, Dylan and all of you other young anglers out there, I so respect what you do because I understand the process. Most of the people that are trashing you do not understand the process. And my dad even said, after I won my second Classic, he came up to me and said, I'm so proud of you. And he said, but you got to remember that success breeds resentment. And at first I didn't understand it. But over time, I actually started observing, and it's just not it's any success. It's just not necessarily in sports. But in so much of this, negativity, it comes from success. But does it come from success? Or the lack of success by those who are complaining? Okay, and that's where it's coming from. It reminds them how unsuccessful they were, and they're going to, they're going to trash, the people, and because it's sad. The psychologists will tell you that I don't mind fishing. We've had constructive criticism from day one. Okay. Yeah. And it's good. It made us do a better job of doing things. It made us catch and release, which was incredible. So criticism is not a bad thing, but this criticism is destructive criticism. Okay. They're going overboard. They're basically, and psychologists have various terms for it, but what they're doing is that they're tearing people down to build up their own self-esteem. And it's that low self-esteem and failure in their life that's causing them to do it. Well, if I tear this person down, tear down how he's successful, then it's going to build me up. And that's not what life's about. Life's is, and you've seen it. I've been around it my whole life, not just in fishing, but in all things in life, that there's a certain group of people, and I'm going to use Jerry McInnes as an example. I'm going to use Johnny Morris as an example. I'm going to use you as an example of people that have become successful, but at the same time, they elevate those around them. And yet there's this other group that the only way they think they can have a good self-image or become successful is to tear those down around them. And that's kind of what's happening here. And I'm kind of tired. It needs to end because, these kids they're not breaking any rules. They're using a modern technique that every one of us in this sport has tried to do. We've tried to figure out how to catch the biggest bass because that's what's going to win the tournament. Roland tried to do it. I tried to do it. Kevin Van Dam's tried to do it. Every angler out there has come up with a technique that allows him to do a better job of catching that quality fish that ultimately wins the tournament. And that's all this new technique has done. And they're using it at a high level. I'm going to finish with that, and I'm going to read this because I do not want to get it wrong. It's too important. And then I'm going to hopefully never have to talk about this subject again. This comes from psychologists. Okay, this is This behavior is ultimately harmful to all involved. It creates a negative environment, damages relationships, and erodes trust. For the person engaging in this behavior, that is tearing people down, the feeling of superiority is shallow and short-lived. And that's why they do it. It makes them feel superior, leading to a repetitive cycle of put-downs as they seek external validation rather than building genuine self-worth from within. True confidence stems from self-acceptance and building others up, not breaking them down. And we got to quit doing that. We can't break these kids down because they're so important, not just to fishing, to the planet, to the whole world, and doing things at such a high level. So, unless you have anything to add to that, I don't want to. I want to leave that subject matter because I am tired of it, as we all are. But it's just and again, I'm with that. It's the minority we're hearing. I really believe that. The minority, it's like Einstein said, not Einstein, but he said a lot too. But like Emerson said, it's not man that disappoints me. It's the lack of man that disappoints me. And we're seeing, unfortunately, in this little area, a lack of man. So anyway, I want to go on to some of the things about you predicting Dylan winning and also his level of self-confidence.
It's wild. It's wild. First of all, what a freaking conclusion. Rick, you said it was going to be different. You came loaded for bear this week.
Yeah, I broke my own rules. I've always had the rules, no politics, no religion, and this is kind of politics. So I can't help it. I just think it's misrepresenting the majority of people in our sport.
Avco not only makes incredible outdoor clothing, but they care about anglers with their 10% pledge. Avco and the Shed family donate at least 10% of the company's profits to conservation and making fishing better. Now back to the show.
Okay, before we move on, I have one question for you because I know that this is going to be the instant retort back to it by people that don't agree with what you just said.
Wow.
Do you have some big relationship with an electronics company? Because right away they're going to say, well, Rick Clunn's saying that because he's bought and paid for.
No, I've never had, unfortunately, I've never had a sponsor that was in the electronic industry. I did have a time that Carl Lawrence, the guy that started the Little Green Box Lawrence, invited me up to Tulsa to fish with him. And it's kind of ironic now looking back on it because the thing he was most disappointed in, he told me, I said, what's the matter, Carl? And he said, the fishermen are not using the product the way I meant for it to be used. And he says, I meant for them to look at the fish, not the bottom. And he says, and most anglers, which is true back then with the little flashers and stuff, were just looking at the bottom. So it's kind of ironic now that even he back then, but no, I've never had any kind of monetary connection with electronics.
Okay, we can move on. I just wanted to make sure we got that in there. So what else did you want to talk about, Rick? You're driving this bus.
Well, really, how much confidence Dylan has. And that's not new to me. I understand it totally. Where most people don't understand, how can a young, inexperienced kid believe he's going to win the tournament 6 months in advance? And there's a known process to that. Einstein knew the process. Most Olympic athletes study the process. I studied the process. There's one thing that I learned in 1977. It is that basically there's absolutely no such thing as accomplishment unless it is preceded by the vision of that accomplishment. The vision of that accomplishment has to precede it. And then that's when I started studying the process because I realized it's true. It's absolutely true. It's all in your mind. Your mind And I'm going to go through the steps of the process. I don't want to go in them. They're lengthy and they're complicated. But the first step of the process is imagination. What do kids have more than an adult? What do kids have more than old people? And that imagination comes in the form of dreams. That's the first step in the process. They have a dream. They allow their imagination to imagine the dream at higher and higher levels. Okay. And then second step is is like I said, you can't achieve accomplishment without the vision. Visualizing that dream. Finally, you actually start playing games. These kids, you start playing. I mean, I did this. I've been there. I know the Olympic athletes I watched doing it. They visualize going down that bobsled, even though they're not in the bobsled. They see that thing over and over ahead of time. There's even higher level of that visualization. Special forces, that's one of their key tools, is rehearsing everything in advance so they have an answer for it on everything. And these kids are out there visualizing, getting on that lake Loudon, visualizing every hour of the day, every minute of the day. They visualize it. And until it takes on a life, it takes on a reality. And then and this is where the weakness of us humans get in the way. The next step is making sure you purify that intention. In other words, you said, "Hey, I'm going to win the Classic." Dylan's been going up to this point, and he's going through this process, even though he may not be consciously aware of it at this point. That's what it's called becoming consciously competent of how it's happening. But pure intention is, a lot of us say, "Yeah, I want to win that tournament. I think I win that tournament." But then there's this little voice back here going, nah, you can't win it. You've never won a tournament. So you got to get rid of all those little demons that are on your shoulder. And Dylan even said this. You remember he said, "I worked my butt off." God, that's so key. But you got to keep in order this process. But ultimately you got to work your butt off. And the next step is why. It's called surrender. Even Einstein said that. Even trying to study his greatest laws of physics and theories of relativity, he gets so frustrated that he said, "I would eventually just lay my head on the table and surrender." Well, what is surrender? You hear the word God a lot, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. These kids mention God a lot. And so how is that actually working? Look at God as a father, okay? He will only get involved at that surrender stage if you have worked your butt off and used every gift he created you with. You have to exhaust them. If you haven't exhausted them and you start to ask him for help, no. Why should I give you more when you're not even using what I gave you? So that is to really, they're within. So why I used to have a problem with them getting up there and thanking God for this, thanking God for that, because, you go, I said, they're all doing that. So which one does God choose? He doesn't choose. You choose. You choose to work in your butt off and using everything you were given when you were put on this planet. And then, I think you can get a little extra help. So that's why I just love listening to that confidence.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more complicated and complex than just that little simple word, "I believe that I was going to win." He did. And he totally believed he was going to win because somehow he had stepped into all this process step by step and in the right order.
Yeah. And the more you put in for work, the more it feeds that. Like it's like a circle. Like you can't be confident without putting the work in. And you can't maintain your confidence. It can't continue to grow with it. Like he makes a point of saying the only guy who worked as hard as him, in his opinion, from what he was judging, is Easton. And he's open with that. But you got to imagine the fact that that's a point in his head. Every day he drove to the ramp and realized it was just me and one other guy here. That made him more confident and also fueled his knowledge.
Well, and that's where the pure intention come in. You have to work so hard. You know exactly what it's going to take to win. You know how many big fish a day you're going to have to catch to win. Or how many big fish you're going to have to weigh in during that tournament to win. When I won in 1990, I knew exactly how many fish I was going to have to weigh in on the James River, big fish to win. And they don't always come exactly when you think they're going to come, but they eventually all come. And so, and when he was going over how hard he was working, and I could see in his mind that he was already, not only did he know the amount of big fish that was going to take to win, he knew where they were going to come from. And he totally believed. He totally had believed that he could do it and have confidence. And then it was just a matter of executing. And when you work as hard as he does, he describes his tools. That's the perfect tools. When I won in 1990, I had to create the bait a year ahead of time that I knew I was going to win it on, because I should have won it the year that Hank Parker won it, but I had the wrong bait. And when we went back, I created the bait I knew that was going to be the right bait. He was doing the same thing. So I love the magic of that, the magic that is in human beings to do that, not just in fishing, but in everything.
One thing that amazes me about you routinely, Rick, and once again, it's amazed me. How are you able to see past what would be so obvious to a lot of people your age? Like, the general rule of thought is you should look at Dylan Nutt and be like, that arrogant little punk. Like, how do you somehow remove that and see the beauty in that you just explained?
It's not easy, and we fight I'm throwing as many negativities in life as most people are, that you have to overcome and erase and cover them up with every negativity with 10 positives. It's what I used to say in fishing. Okay, if I get one negativity, cover it up with 10 positives. The problem with age is we lose that ability to do that. We don't really lose it, but we give in to the negativity. Okay, and we still don't, depend on the positives. And this is again where, believe it or not, Einstein helped me so much, because early in life he always made the statement that my greatest achievements did not come from my rational mind, and that's where in this country, the rational mind is the master. Intellect is the master. Okay, but the intellect is also what will steal all this from you. At the end of his life, Einstein made the statement, I understand now. He basically says, the gift is the imagination and intuition. The rational mind that we give so much to is just a faithful servant. But modern man, and this includes us old people, we elevate the rational mind to the master and forget the gifts, the imagination, and I try not to forget the gifts. And it's not easy, but, the imagination, the dreams, we should still have dreams when we're my age, when whatever. We still should have dreams. It shouldn't be over. So like I said, when I won in 2016, never accept that all your greatest moments are in the past. Never. That includes dreams. You got to continue. So I hope I can, continue to do that. And it gets harder. It gets harder, when you get older.
Do you still dream, Rick? Do you have dreams?
I'm not talking about sleeping dreams, okay?
No. I'm talking about I don't mean.
Oh, I didn't think. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're different. They're it's like when I had the dream to become the oldest guy to ever win a BASS tournament. Yeah. Silly dream, but it's still a dream. But you have to maintain. It can't be an unpure dream. I mean, what I call pure intentions is so important to all of this, because even all this process I just described, negativity sneaking, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. And you got to beat it back. You got to say, okay, you got to do like the Special Forces guy. You got to rehearse everything in advance, so when it comes, you knew it was coming and knew how to deal with it. And so when I, won in 2016 and again in 2019, I know I don't have the physical ability to win like I did in 1990 by making 2,438 casts that day. I don't have that physical ability, probably, without hurting. And but I also realize, okay, that is a negative if you make that statement, but I'm smarter. I've got more experience. You don't have to just make that many casts, and that's where, again, these young anglers are so good. They have mathematically figured the game out.
Yeah.
They're beating you mathematically, okay, if you're tired of them beating you, because they're throwing at more fish than you are. Even Kevin and I probably only had a half a dozen days that we knew we were throwing at hundreds of fish. Most of the time we were just throwing it in a day of 2,000 casts. We were just throwing at 100 fish all day long. And we couldn't tell how they were reacting to our bait. So mathematically, I can still beat scopers one day. I can have my magical traditional way of fishing and beat them. But you're not going to beat them multiple days, not on most lakes. And that's just mathematics. That's not a bad guy. That's not a demon. That's just mathematics.
It's hard to compete when you're guessing when somebody is not.
Sure.
I mean, if you're always throwing out a fish, guess what?
No, I understand the concerns, and they're legitimate. But that's the good thing about fishing. BASS is making some great moves to give it a balance between the traditional way and the modern way. And that's the way it should be dealt with, traditional way versus modern way. And they're making some really great moves and there's other circuits that if you don't want any modern fishing, NPFL, sorry, but they're presenting. So you can fish what you want. You don't have to fish. But fishing's always been that way. Seek the level you want, and just don't complain about the ones you don't like. Not too much.
Yeah, I just feel like there's something for everybody. Right now, you're getting and what we're hearing is groups that are like, no, but I want it all this way. I want all of it. And to me, it is our event we're going into this week. It's non-forward facing sonar, and I'm excited to see that. I feel like it gives a different. It's weird, and I think there is other sports that have gone through it, and I never thought about this till now, but if you look at, and this isn't a popular North American sport, but cross-country skiing, it has always been like classical skiing. Then 25, 30 years ago, skate skiing came along, which is much faster, not near the art that maybe classical skiing was considered, but initially those guys kind of kicked butt in those races. But then they made different divisions. They had skate skiing divisions. They have classical skiing. I think that's what we're getting to. You know what I mean? And again, the person who wins is the person that's good at all of it.
No, and again, it's. I enjoyed Dylan talking about that. He found this, and I hate the terminologies. And this is again sick minds that come up with cheating box. That's a sick mind. Okay. You're calling him a cheater. You're calling the other ones a cheater, and yet there's nothing. They're doing nothing to break the rules. That's a just lazy, sick way of thinking. And but I did find it interesting that Dylan said, "I find it boring when I'm sitting down throwing at dots."
Yeah,
he's being honest. Okay, he would rather fish the traditional way. I'd rather go up there and throw a spinnerbait around logs and stuff. That's fun for me. And that's where a lot of people, again, falsely accuse these kids, think they're not any good at that. No, you're going to find out some of them are real good at traditional way of fishing. And but the most important thing Dylan said to me was, because I love fishing because it puts me outside. And I mean, there's so much depth in that statement, so much depth. I mean, because, I work with probably who I consider the leading conservationist of all time in modern society, and that's Johnny Morris.
100%.
Spend his money in conservation, even more so than Teddy Roosevelt in the early days. And but conservation doesn't work if we don't have young people outside.
Yeah.
And then when Dylan said that, because I knew that. I knew that's the thing it's been most rewarding thing in fishing to me has been high school fishing, college fishing, because it's putting all these young anglers that wouldn't be outside. And outside will make them fall in love with it. And that's who you need if you want conservation to survive. You need people who want to protect it. And those people are coming, more and more of them now, through these young angler groups.
Yeah. Yeah. And youth keeps the past alive. I mean, just think of the Dylan Nutt story. How many people learned, never mind Dylan Nutt and what he did, but in the last week and a bit, how many people learned who Brian Kerschel is and what Brian Kerschel did?
Yeah.
But that's the youth keeping the past alive. Like, it's a circle. And
it is. And I'll never forget, we were at High Rock when Brian won. And I weighed in ahead of him, and I was in my boat, and I pulled up, and he'd gotten out of his boat, and he was leaning, very hot. It was a summer event.
Yeah.
Very hot, and he was leaning against a wall in the sun, with his head down like this. And I got out of my boat, and I went over to him, and I said, "You okay, Brian?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm okay, but I may have won it too soon." And I went, "Oh my God. How in the world can't that?" But that tells you what kind of person this young person already was. I mean, I may have won it too soon, because all of us, especially in competitive arena, we set targets. And in the beginning, there is a possibility you hit your target too soon. And then where do you go? What's the next target? And he had the depth to see that. To see, of course, we know what happened, but still at the same time, I still look back on that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
This young angler really saw the big picture. And as silly a thing as we were doing back then, chasing little green fish, he saw it beyond what that was. And like you said, it was a dream.
Yeah.
A dream of just cooking hamburgers, at a grill and washing dishes, yet he dreamed about being a world champion.
And I think if you dig deeper into that, to me, what's screaming is that's another perfect example of how the past needs the future needs the past, the present, it all connects. Because think about it. If you say that, well, then you've got the last two Bassmaster Classic champions that won too soon. If you go by that theory, but there's a little caveat that changes that, because there's names like Rick Clunn, Kevin Van Dam, Denny Brower, Roland Martin that have all set standards that those kids, whether they know that person or don't know that person, want to chase down. You know what I mean? Like, forever, you and Kevin have a target on you because you won 4 classics. And if anybody gets to 3, it'll be, but that's, the present doesn't exist without the past. The past doesn't exist without the future. It disappeared. Like, it's all connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, I could see Dylan already shooting at that winning 2 in a row. It's already there. He's already envisioning that accomplishment.
Yeah. It didn't take long. He says some wild things, Rick. I mean, I'm going to tell you something. I haven't said this publicly. I've told a few people, but you can only imagine. So at their toast. I introduced Kevin to his family, and Kevin is standing there and he's talking. And Dylan's dad is an awesome dude. He's just very inquisitive. It's one of those people you meet and he asks you a bunch of questions. You know what I mean? Like when he met me, he's like, oh, so how'd you get into this? But, you know, so he's asking Kevin a bunch of questions. And he says something about, yeah. And we're just in a circle at a toast. And Dylan's kind of standing there. And I know they're standing there. They're like, that's Kevin Van Dam. It's kind of a cool thing. But this kid says some stuff that will blow you away, because Kevin says to his dad, well, you know, I've made 28 classics and I won 4. It's not a very good average. You know, just a nothing joke. And out of nowhere, you hear Dylan go, 1 for 1 ain't bad.
Yeah.
Kevin didn't even know what to say. He was just like,
Yeah. No.
You make this show so much smarter, Rick Clunn. I thank you for that.
Well, you said so many. I went back and listened to your whole show with Dylan, and you really said some really, I don't want to say smart things. Because they were beyond smart. They were, they would make people look at it in the right way and see, you know, you don't take shots at people. You weren't taking shots at the naysayers, and you were saying, you know, they're entitled to their opinions, and I agree with that. But they're not entitled to trashing this young man. They're not entitled to that, and or anybody just because of that. So, no, I really enjoyed that, and it wasn't about how he caught his fish or anything necessarily. You know, that's why I said when we came on, this is different.
Well, it might be different, but it was wonderful, Rick Clunn. You got anything else, or is this
no
conclusion?
I've kind of said what I wanted to say,
and you nailed it. Thank you. So last question. Was avoiding me at the Classic, was that intentional, Rick? Were you ducking me?
Never. Maybe Zona, because I enjoyed his conversation about Zona. And I was known to avoid Zona just like he did. And Zona knows that.
Yeah, how about Dylan wins the Classic at 22 years old while getting into like this? It's not a war. It's just like Zona's trying to do his job, and Dylan's trying to do what he thinks it takes to get his job done. Kid's got a giant set of balls.
Well, and Zona understands that he's got a little bit of that mafia image in him, being from Chicago. So we're not going to completely trust him, even though the more I know him, the more I trust him.
Oh, thanks, Rick. You're awesome. Jake's take back in your life. How are you doing, dude?
Oh, I feel naked without my headset. I don't know why it's not working, but
broke the flux capacitor.
Yeah, whatever.
Something's wrong, but
something.
Hell or high water. We're doing it. We're doing it though. We can. Are. I mean, you don't sound your same crystal clear self, but this show's been plagued with audio issues in the last month or so. I think we have a poltergeist. We need an exorcism.
I'm gonna get a new headset with a new boom.
Yeah, my mother was still alive. She'd be here with the holy water. She blessed everything we owned growing up, dude. She got holy water from the Vatican. It didn't matter. Like if I had bad friends come over to the house, she'd be like, so Jake's
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm very good. Mississippi this week. I'm looking forward to that event, the 10 Tom Big B Waterway, somewhere we've never been. So that's going to be fun. Another non-forward facing sonar event. So that is compelling. I'm digging this. I was not, a huge proponent of the one-off kind of one-on-one-off kind of approach. I wanted a limited time, but I keep saying so far I'm digging this a little more because it kind of allows us to see both techniques shine, and I think it gives the sane people of the world a little bit of something from both sides. But if you're just focused on it being all forward-facing sonar, you probably get grumpy. But whatever, enough. With the debate is, people.
Yeah, exactly.
Forward-facing sonar screwed up your microphone, Jake. That's what happened.
That's
Spent
what it
too
is.
much time near Trey McKinney and people like that at the Bassmaster Classic, and that's why your microphone doesn't work.
That's right. It's interference from the LVS 34. I like this.
Or the
too.
Humminbird Mega Live, which is my favorite.
That's true.
So they sponsor the show.
I like the format because, like you said, it gives everyone a chance to compare and contrast. And I hope it doesn't go away. I hope we keep this format because it swings back and forth, and it gives. I've been saying this for a few months now that eventually I think it's just going to settle in to whoever finds the center balance of both formats is going to turn out to be the most consistent anglers. And there's going to be, just like as usual, there's going to be a handful of those guys that figure both of them out, and they're the ones that are going to rise to the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this with that in mind. So what do you do? Okay. So let's say it works. Let's just say it continues on the way it is, which I think works. At the end of the season, you feel like it works. Okay. So that's simple. We're going to have a coin toss show every year. The Elite Series is figured out. What do you do with the Bassmaster Classic, Jake?
I've actually thought about this, and I don't want to answer no. I think maybe coin flip the Classic. How do you feel about that?
I'm good for it. Either way.
Why wouldn't we?
I think it. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to coin flip Bass has always followed the rules of you compete the way you qualified, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to compete, if you're going to qualify through coin flips, you should compete during a coin flip. And I just think it would be cool. I mean, to me, it if it works in the Elites, why wouldn't it work in the Bassmaster Classic?
It raises the bar. In my opinion, it raises the bar of everything because all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is the direction we have to go. Boom. And I who knows what Dylan Nutt would have done in the Classic had it been non-forward-facing sonar, because that kid, the more I listen to him talk and the more we start to understand how much time he put into that, how much time Easton Fothergill put into that fishery during the practice time period, the more I realize that that's more of a factor than anything else that he could possibly have done to win the Classic was. He put his time in, and he was there. He said, for 2 months he was there?
He put in a solid month, he said. One solid month where he was on the water every single day.
And the only other person he saw at the boat ramps every single day was Easton Fothergill. And the difference was that Easton spent more of his time down on Tellico, and Dylan Nutt spent more of his time, or he found the right school of fish on Loudon. There's the separation right there, right? I mean, it's a simple formula.
Which is also what you teach your kids, what your teachers have always taught you, what your job, whatever you try to do in life, everybody's always told you the more work you put in, the better you're going to be. Like, it's so messed up. Like, in a world we live in now where people are like, well, of course he won. He took a month and spent it on the water. Like, yes. Of course, that dude just won the Olympic medal, because guess what? That dude had nothing else in their life. They didn't care about anything but focused on that one sport and that one element and getting the best at that. And that's what always has been rewarded. It doesn't just Kobe Bryant threw 1,000, made didn't throw, made 1,000 free throws every day of his life.
Yep.
Throughout his whole career in the NBA. So for every day, that is relentless. Like there's so many fabled stories about him showing up before people and staying later and that work ethic. That's what Dylan Nutt did. That's what Easton Fothergill did in this classic. And I think it's cool that that's actually being publicized because you don't normally hear people say, oh, that guy works hard, but you don't normally hear it exposed the way it has been in this classic.
100% agree. I had this long conference. Of course, I've been having this conversation with my son Walker about boxing and football for 4 years now since he started the sport. You can't do this half-ass. You have to do this constantly, consistently. You have to work. You can't, once you perfect your strengths, you have to work on your weaknesses. That's what you have to focus on to get better. Yesterday, my daughter, Aspen, my oldest daughter, is about to start her softball season, and we've been working quite a bit during the off season to refine her hitting skills and her ground ball skills as a fielder and fly ball skills and as an outfielder. And we had this conversation yesterday about watching more videos, understanding the techniques, understanding what you're doing wrong, where your hands are when you load your legs and your hips before you swing through the ball. And the last thing that we talked about was you can't do this once a week and expect to get better quicker. You have to do this every day. You have to wake up in the morning thinking about it. You have to go to bed at night thinking about it. And the more you do that, the more consistent you'll become and the better you'll be. You nailed it on the head. It's everything in life, no matter what you want to do. If you want to be good at it, there's a book called The Outliers, and it states it takes 10,000 hours of consistent research and study and participation to become a master at any skill in life. You can either take this long to do it or you can take this long to do it. It's all up to you. But you have to put those 10,000 hours in, and all those other guys out there, I'm not being critical of them because they have their lives, they have their families, they have their children, they have their other commitments with sponsors, whatever it is they're doing, they have to deal with those things as well. These two guys had all this free time. That's the blessing of being young in this sport, up and coming. They're single or, maybe they've got girlfriends, but they've committed themselves to their primary purpose in life. And here you go. You got the two guys that have won the past two Bassmaster Classics, the holy grail of bass fishing, professional bass fishing trophies. And here they are, the surface of or everything that they've done comes to surface in these last several days of podcasts and information, publicity coming out. They put the most time in.
Yeah. And one thing I want to correct, you said these guys had free time. They didn't. They made free time. You listen to Dylan talk about how, he was on the dean's list while he was doing this.
That was the most impressive thing.
Hammering back to school, focused, and think of everything else that he's and Easton balanced. And guess what? It's not going to be easy for them to continue to run at that pace. But that's also natural. That's every single sport. I remember a buddy of mine who fought for the title in the UFC. He didn't win the title, but he fought for the title in the UFC. And after he fought for the title, I remember him saying to me, I'm never going to be back there. And I remember saying, what do you mean? And he said, I don't want to give what I had to give to get to that level. He said, I didn't win the belt. I got to the level where I could compete for the belt, but he says, I'm not willing to give up my life to get that. And at the time, I remember thinking, that's kind of weird, but the more I look at it, it's just natural, right? As you age, there's other stuff that matters more to you. But I think we should celebrate. Hard work should always be celebrated. And we saw some pretty hard work pay off at the Bassmaster Classic. And I think Easton, it's awesome that he had an opportunity to defend his title. I think that's not getting as much credit as it deserves. He put in the work. I think what Trey McKinney's done, back-to-back second place finishes, very, very impressive. I mean, but give me your skinny, because we got a lot of guests on this show, so we got to fire through. What's Jake's take from the Bassmaster Classic?
I mean, this was honestly, I don't even know how many classics I've been to now. I've been involved with Bassmaster for 15 years. I think I've missed 2 or 3 or 4 classics over the years. So I can honestly say this one was my favorite ever. I mean, take Knoxville out of the picture or put it in the picture, however you want to do it. It's one of my favorite cities in the country. I'm a huge Tennessee fan. I went to school at UT. I always love going home and just absorbing campus and the whole Knoxville atmosphere. And the Bassmaster Classic was huge. The fans filled Thompson Bowling Arena. It was, and all the criticism and talk from Texas last year was put to rest because every seat was filled in that arena this year. And I was more than impressed with most every comment that I read from all the fans across all the different posts. I mean, it was, even the hype is still going from the Classic. That's how successful it was. So from my perspective, I was in the boat with Brandon Polinick on day 1, and I was in the boat with Drew Cook on day 2 and day 3. And those were, days and experiences within themselves. But at the end of the day, the most impressive thing that I come out of that Classic with was how well everything went, how smoothly, how calm everything was. Lots of times our staff, everybody involved in Bass, the organizers, everybody stressed out because we go from the ramp to the arena. It takes 45 minutes. There's a big delay and all those things that come with that. This time, to me, everything was just seamless and smooth. I'm not an organizer, so I can't speak for someone like Eric Lopez, but when I ran into him, he was all smiles. Everybody was happy.
I've run a Yamaha outboard for over 30 years. It has got me home safe each and every time. If you enjoy this podcast, remember, Yamaha supports it and they care enough about you to make this ad read very short. Back to the show.
Yeah, it was a great event. It was, and Knoxville keeps showing out. Like, to me, it's, now the third Classic there, you start to think, it's going to start to, and that's just natural with events. It doesn't matter whether it's a Bassmaster Classic or the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
not that we are. But the more the Rolling Stones play, the less hype is going to be around them in a certain area. But Knoxville's, I mean, I don't think we set an attendance record. I'm certain we didn't, because if we did, we would have talked about it.
We set a viewership record.
Yeah, set a viewership record on Fox. I mean, we were on Network Fox, which was huge Saturday and Sunday. But it was an incredible Classic. A celebrate, like, everybody was having fun, and it was really cool to see. And I mean, one thing that stood out to me was just the massive amount of, and it's been getting this way the last number of years, but the massive, you didn't see the expo at all, but I literally saw it while I was walking through the Bassmaster to the live set and back and forth. The amount of young people that were at this Classic was awesome, which is,
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Dude.
Remember years ago, people said we have no kids fishing. They're not saying that anymore. There's too many damn kids fishing.
Get them out of here. They're too young. They can't be doing all this. Hey, the most negative comment that I read of all the hundreds or thousands of comments that I actually read, the most negative one was that it was too crowded.
Here's my favorite comment for the Classic, and I haven't even used it yet. And it did make me laugh because, listen, some hate is funny. And I don't even think this is hate, because I get where there's people that don't like live scope. So I understand that. If it's just not your way of fishing, like, that's cool. There's people that don't like the Carolina rig. I get that, like, it's But one of the best things was at takeoff one morning, somebody commented, "Gentlemen, start your live scopes." Whoever that was, you made me laugh. Very creative.
That's a good one. And the takeoff in Knoxville is just set up like an outdoor arena where everyone lines the seating.
It's like an amphitheater almost. Like it isn't, but it is because of the way it's set up.
Yeah, that's what it kind of looks like. And I went up into the crowd several times when we pulled up to the dock. We always have 30 or 40 or an hour to wait until takeoff. And you go up there and everybody's, they're drinking coffee. Who knows what they have in their coffee, but people are up there. It's like a big giant party. And I know it would get old if we did the Classic there every year, but sometimes I wish we could because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great location.
How was it for you in the arena as the MC? And how many Classics have you done now? 15?
16. This is my 16th Classic, my 26th Classic in a row that I've been at.
Congratulations.
Oh,
you did so well. You're so good.
No. It's easy to keep track because the first one was 2000 that I attended. Widely considered the most unsuccessful Classic ever. It was in Chicago. It was a Soldier Field. And the weigh-in was, any weigh-in at Soldier Field is going to seem empty, but it was, nobody even knew it was there. It was part of ICAST was happening at the same time. It was wild. We bought tickets to go see the Cubs play. And I didn't realize if you buy tickets off a cab driver, they're probably not going to be great tickets. And we were sat right in front of a pole. Watching
I'm surprised you got in, period. It wasn't a counterfeit ticket.
No, it was a legit ticket. It's funny. We actually, for my bar, I have the ticket. So I found the ticket and me and my son went and searched and got a picture of that seat. And you see, like, from the view, there's a pole. So I have framed in a shadow box down by the bar now a picture of that ticket with a view of a pole.
As at Wrigley Field?
Yeah. It was good time. Good time.
Hey, so when you're on stage, Dave, especially at something as big and significant as the Classic, and I know you have so much to think about and remember, what's your biggest fear?
Probably having to poop. I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
Exactly what I was thinking, that you have to go take a dump.
Yeah. I don't really think, I try not to think of what I'd be worried about, but it was great. It was a fun. The anglers works really good. Like we put a big emphasis on moving them along quickly. The Classic gets bigger. 58 anglers is hard to get 58 anglers in a boat through there, give them their time. They deserve their time. If I had to think of what I was scared of most, but I try not to think of what I'm fearful of and just enjoy the moment. Like I really enjoyed this year's weigh-ins. They were fun. They were quick. Easiest way to make something better is to make it shorter. Like everyone's watched that movie that they're just like, that was a good movie, but probably about 45 minutes too long. Our weigh-ins have been that way, except about 3 hours too long. So
yeah.
So thankfully they got a little shorter. I think it was a fun Classic. It was a whirlwind for me. I feel like I was on live somewhere from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. every day, because we had a lot
for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. We gave a hug on the dock, and that's it.
And we were in the same area a lot of the same times, and I saw you for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to talk about before we cut this short, because I know you got a lot going on in this show. What about the fishery? Oh my
incredible.
goodness.
And I haven't got a clean answer yet. They stock some Florida strain but dude, like that, let's be honest, up till now, every tournament we've had there, every Classic we've had there, the anglers ran out of fish. I mean, it was a great town to have a classic, but nobody was going to Knoxville to go fishing.
Gussie
I'm watching that. And I'm like,
fish.
I'm watching that, and I'm like, I want to go fishing. Like, this place is, and not just the weights. Think of the numbers, like the amount of time people said, I caught 50, 60 fish today. So kudos to Tennessee for investing in and making it better. For whatever reason, it was better, and I love it.
I think they saw the writing on the wall and understood that that was the one weakness of the events, particularly for us when we come back to Knoxville, was the fishery and the limitation of the resource. And without knowing that was going to happen, that was the surprise of the event. And, you know, I've heard 3 or 4 different answers. I think Dylan Nutt said, he thought that he heard that they stocked Florida strain bass in there. I talked to Polinick about it. He was like, it must have been the shad die off. The fish were feeding like crazy. And then I talked to Lee Livesey, and he was like, I think they stocked a bunch of new fish in there right before the tournament.
Well, whatever they did, keep doing it every time we come, because it was freaking awesome. I don't think Lee's theory is correct. I mean,
no, I think we were joking about it, but you know, I mean, the point being that there was something, you know, in the water, and it made the classic better. Everybody wants to see big fish, and while I mean, they caught, how many 7-pounders were caught? 3 or 4.
Yeah. I mean, and 20-pound bags, we had 5, 6 a day type thing. Like it was, it's just insane.
26, 11.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That was icing on the cake, man.
Yeah. Just a wild event. What you got to witness Cook for a couple of days. So he caught an 8. Never mind 7s. He caught an 8, right? His was. Yeah.
He saw, so when he pulled up.
No, his was 7.5. Sorry, I'm exact.
It was 7.5. The closest one to that was 7.3. Prior to that, I believe
7.2. It was Dakota's.
That's right.
Mystery fish. We still haven't found out whether. I mean, it clearly wasn't a smallmouth. I mean, mean mouth, whatever. It was marvelous.
Yeah, that was super cool. He just had his wife just had a baby.
Yeah. It was 7.5.
Yeah.
I was shocked. And here's the idiot I am. During the broadcast, while the broadcast's happening, we see this fish hatch, and I just say stuff a lot of times, and whatever pops in my head, and I'm like, ain't no way his baby's that big. And like Dakota and Shelby, his partner, they're little people. I mean, they're not very large. I was like, there's no way that's a 7. But I mean, the baby was 7.5. So yeah.
As of right now, that's their PB.
I ran into him after weigh-in that day, and he was the first person I ran into when I got back to the hotel. And he's like, "Are you kidding me? I weighed in a 7.2 today, and I still don't win big bass."
That's funny. When Drew found that fish, I remember he was coming around this point and headed straight for this dock, and there was one stick in underwater, and it had a blob on top of it, which was that big fish. It looked like a mushroom or a lollipop. And he threw, I can't remember how many times he threw that jerkbait over that fish until he finally got her to eat. But when she ate, you know, she was kind of lethargic, and she had one hook in her mouth. And, you know, when she got to the boat, she came up belly first, and he scooped her up and he bread loafed her into the boat. And all I could think about, because I had my comm on, all I could think about was, wow, this is so cool, because Randy Moss is on stage right now, calling this whole catch right now. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool to get.
Drew was so emotional. He dropped a couple of 4-letter words live. I think he said the D word and the S word. No F-bombs, though. That was good.
Those aren't even offensive nowadays, are they?
No, I think it's just part of live language.
Of Polnick and Cook that you were with, was either of them doing something that really stood out as different or noteworthy to you?
I mean, Not really, other than I would say Drew, he was right in the same pockets and the same stretch of water that Dylan Nutt was in. There were several boats in that area. Trey McKinney was down there. And one of the things that stood out to me on day 3, and of course, I'm always rooting for the guy that I'm covering. I mean, I like when you want to be a part of that. And, you could tell sort of 2/3 of the way through the day as the day started. And why, I don't know why, but day 3 of the Classic always seems so short. It just seems like it just goes by so fast to me, and it always does. And, them being 30-minute boat ride from launch to where their spot is really means a 45 to 50-minute ride back, because they're always concerned about, okay, I just don't want to be late. So they always leave a little bit early, which cuts more time off of their day, right? But as we were fishing around some of these shallows and narrows in these pockets, you could see Dylan Nutt, because, I mean, you couldn't miss him because he had like 35 boats following him around. And I will say this too. This is another thing that stood out to me as we talk about it. When Drew pulled up on a point, a dock where Patrick Walters were fishing, they roommate and they share information. He pulled straight up to Patrick. He goes, "What's going on?" This was his second stop of the morning, which was Patrick's first stop. He goes, "Dude, the winning fish are all over this point, from that dock all the way over here to this little cove. They're everywhere. There's hundreds of them, but I can't get them to bite. I've thrown everything but the kitchen sink at him. I can't get him to go." So Patrick leaves. Drew stays there. He moves off a little bit to give those fish a rest, knowing he's going to come back to that point. He comes back to that point, and here comes a NASCAR race around the corner, Dylan Nutt leading the way, and there's 35 boats that come within 50 or 60 yards of us, all wide open through that gap. And 15 minutes later, that whole point is completely muddied up. It looks like there was a torrential flood that came through there, and that spot was burnt. It was totally burnt because it changed everything. So that definitely played a factor in what was going on. I'm not saying, no one did that on purpose, but it was one of those factors that you just don't see coming, and you get blindsided by it. And then all of a sudden that throws that game plan off. You got to go to plan B or plan C, because that was plan C. So Dylan was running around a lot. It was like, and I know that Drew had it in his head. He's like, he must not be catching them. This is my opportunity to seize the moment. And I think Dylan ended up with 19 pounds, which is really where Drew
20
needed him. What was it?
He had 20 on the final day.
He had 20. Okay. Well, I remember looking at Bass Track up until that 1 o'clock cutoff time, that he had like 19 and some change. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is exactly where Drew needs Dylan to be, for him to go catch a big bag, like 23, 24 pounds, to make up that difference that he needed. But, he did not run out of fish. He just could not get him to fire. It was just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that moment play out when we were doing live. We saw Drew and the boats. And I mean, that's kind of on the spectators too with that. Like, keep in mind, and I get it, you're following who you're following and you're wanting to, but like, if I remember the footage right, I mean, Dylan was out quite a ways, but the problem is your flotilla doesn't sit right behind your prop wake. It's a big wide swath, and by the point 30 of them went past, some of them were stupidly close to Drew. Like, you know what I mean? A cast length away. Yeah, no, I mean, I watched it, and you just saw his bow going up and down. And
I turned around. I thought it was important enough that I turned around and I filmed 10 or 12 of those boats go by, and it seemed like it's like sometimes when the cormorants, like on Lake Fork, it's like it never ends. It just keeps coming. The flocks of cormorants keep flying by. And that's what the flotilla looked like. But, 35 boats is a lot, particularly on a narrow body of water like that section of the Tennessee River. But I remember one time at Lake Conroe, I was with Iconelli. And if I recall, and I have photos of it, if I recall, he had like 117 boats watching him and it was frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like parting the Red Sea just to get out of that marina where he was fishing by that seawall. It was like parting the Red Sea just to get out of there, and that eats time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing where live has helped. I mean, the flotillas, and we're thankful that, fans care enough to come out there and follow, but the flotillas have definitely gotten a lot less because you can just cover it better from home. But thankfully to segments like Jake's Take, we get the behind the scenes goods. And I appreciate you. Got anything else? Or are we good?
I think we're good, Dave. That was fabulous.
We set a record, shortest Jake's Take ever. And we hate to cut people short, but we got a lot of guests on this show. And don't worry, Jake will be back in the future and we'll spend a little more time and he'll pontificate on the things that happen around this sport.
Last thing, I won't be at Tom Bigby because my son is fighting in the Colorado State Golden Gloves this week. So I chose not to go to that event, but this is the last one I'm going to miss the rest of the year. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the year.
Go Walker.
Yes, go Walker.
4 incredible guests on one show. I mean, who does that? I mean, literally, that's a month worth of podcasts all rolled up real nice and jammed into one show. Who does that? Maybe other people do it. I don't know, but we did it this week. And I'm proud of this little show, and I'm proud of you fine humpers for tuning in week after week. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell your friends about the podcast. Keep the grow going. Reminder, I'm in Mississippi for the Bassmaster Elite Series, so that means Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You could tune into Mercer in the morning, each and every Elite Series morning, about an hour before scheduled takeoff time. You can see us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram Live. Mercer in the morning, where we interview different pros before they're actually totally awake, and it's a fun way to wake up each and every morning. Hope you're tuned into that. Keep the grow going on this podcast. Make sure you comment. Let us know what you think of this show. Help stroke the algorithm. I thank you for spending a little time with us. And I remind you, everybody is fighting a battle out there. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Be kind. Spread happiness. Smile. Have a door open for somebody. Call a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Check in on your buddies. Because everybody's battling. And if we battle together, we will all win. Yeah, actually makes sense. Some of the stuff comes out of my mouth doesn't make sense, but that does make sense. Because you'll not only make that person feel better, but in the end, you'll feel better. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see a bunch of you down in Mississippi. And I'll be extra careful now because I'm driving to this one. After I make a statement like that, I think about people that I might give the finger to if they cut me off or something. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a better person this week. I'm going to live what I preach. Have a great week. Enjoy being. And as always, Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?